welcome back. On this episode, we're going to talk about fuel economy and mileage and what you can do to make your vehicle better on fuel and get more distance and more bang for your buck, also more performance, which is always the best part. We always want to have better performance. So in this case, we're going to be talking about the 17 Yamaha Silverado, but this will hold true in anything with a similar air intake or box or design. So keep that in mind, that if you don't have this particular bike and you have another bike that has a similar setup on it, or even a car that's similar, this should all hold true, and it should help you out to get better mileage and more performance for free, basically. So don't forget to subscribe and click the notification button. Also check me out on Instagram at Clargo Garage. Alright, here we go. So on this bike, anyone that follows me has seen lots of videos on it, and in this case we're just talking about the air intake system. So on episode 4, we pulled the airbox off and we removed the air filter and put a new one on, and I go through all those steps. And then in episode 43, we go in and we put a K&N air filter in, and I went on a trip and I have some data numbers to show the performance between the K&N and the stock OEM air filter. But anyone that's watched me before, I always talk about my airbox mod. So anyone that doesn't know about my airbox mod, on the front of the airbox, this is the airbox front of the bike. So I made a little hole, you can see it right there. I cut on the 3 sides, and then I heated it up and folded it over, and I kept folding it over until the spark plugs were the color that I wanted, and it ended up boosting me like around 70 kilometers on a tank on the freeway. Because one of the issues with the Yamaha in particular, or that I call an issue, is the factory air intake is on the back side of the airbox. So when you have your legs sitting here, I always found on the freeway especially, it was just choking out for air at higher RPM. It just couldn't get enough air in. It was what I found. Which is why I did that modification there. And I kept the back open because I didn't want to start pressurizing the airbox. Because I just wanted something reliable. I wouldn't have to worry about that or collecting water inside the airbox either. Because at least with it open on the back, if it's raining and water does start getting in, for the most part it should settle on the bottom and just come up the back side, and I shouldn't be sucking into my motor. And I like the way the factory airbox. I always keep track of my mileage and that kind of stuff. Every time I stop for fuel, typically I write down the kilometers on the bike, the kilometers on the trip, and then how many liters or how many gallons I put into it, depending if I'm in Canada or the US, because I am a border town, so I do a lot of riding in both. So I have all my numbers for Canada, US, and also UK gallons, or metric gallons. So the way the bike came stock, and this I'm going to use all my mileage that I'm using is going to be from trips, so it's similar driving conditions and that kind of stuff. So it's not I'm not using any numbers from just around town where the bike idles for 10 or 15 minutes, and then you go like 10 kilometers to work or something, shut it off, and then you fire it back up, same thing, and then you go home. Because it gives you, it's really hard to get good mileage numbers and good data from that because it's so inconsistent. So I like to use just when I'm on trips, because the bike fires up and then you just go, so it doesn't have that warm-up period all the time where you have the choke on, burning extra fuel and everything. It's just straight driving, and it gives a lot better accurate data. So things that can affect it is weather, how windy it is, that kind of stuff. If it's raining, if it's colder out, hotter out, how much gas you're giving it. If you're driving really hard or driving easy, that can change your mileage by quite a bit. So I picked data from trips I know I was driving very similar in. So I'm going to start out with the worst mileage. So this would be back in 2016. I went down to Port Dover. So I left from Sault Ste. Marie, Canada, and drove down to Port Dover the Canadian way and then back the American way. So the speed limits on the Canadian side are slower by quite a bit. So these numbers are better than if I would have just went in the American way. And these are the worst numbers, and this is how the bike would have came factory. This was with a clean air filter on it, OEM style, and no airbox modification. So my average numbers are 14.37 kilometers per liter, which works out to 33.77 miles to the gallon US, or 40.52 miles per the gallon UK. So that's not terrible mileage, but it's also not great mileage for a motorbike, even though it is large displacement. And now we're going to jump ahead to 2018. That's when I ended up doing that airbox modification to get more air in. I was doing a lot of freeway riding, and I just found I just didn't have the power, and I didn't have the fuel range that I wanted, so I was looking at ways to make it better. So making that little tiny hole in the front, which isn't that big of a hole, it's about inch and a half by inch and a quarter. So it's not large at all. And on my first trip there, I had 10 data points that I used. I had 10 stops on my way there and back for fuel. And so I did that average over 10 fuel stops. My next point, I'm only using 6 fuel stops. So I know that I was running back and forth to Alpena quite a bit, and I know it's pretty accurate data. So my average mileage, once I did that airbox mod, jumped up to 18.68 kilometers per liter, or 43.9 miles per gallon US, or 52.68 miles per gallon UK, which is a pretty big difference. It's over 10 miles per gallon better, or over 4 liters per kilometer better, or about 12 miles per gallon UK better, which is quite a bit just from that little modification. So I highly recommend anyone that likes to look at the stock airbox, whether they're looking to get more performance, 100% it's worth it. And it's literally free. You just gotta take it off the bike, do your cuts, and then just heat it up and fold it over. So I didn't want to take it right out because I wanted to be able to close it off if I found I was getting too much air, if it was leaning out too much, and I didn't want to go and change the jets to bigger jets, because then I was going to be burning more fuel again. I was trying to go for getting that perfect burn and not having to spend any more money on fuel. I was trying to go for distance, not for extreme horsepower or anything like that. The bike runs pretty good the way it is. So I only cut it on 3 sides because I wanted to be able to kind of open or close it up as I needed. So I wanted to get the plugs to to a good burn color. So they're kind of like a nice golden brown. Like they're not like black and sooty, and they're not white or anything like that. Because if your plugs are really black, usually that means you're running too rich. There's too much fuel and not enough air. And then if your plugs are really white, it means that you're running way too lean, and there's too much air, not enough fuel. And both cases aren't the best for the motor. Too rich is probably better than, is better than too lean, but we like to be in that sweet spot. So I just kept opening the flap. I started very small and just kept opening it until I got the plugs where they were about a golden brown color, and I was checking them about every 1,000 kilometers or so it gave them real time, and it was all highway riding to get them to where I thought the bike should be. So if you're doing it yourself and you're not sure, you're looking for that kind of like golden brown color, is pretty good. You definitely don't want really white, and you don't want really black or sooty or anything, because neither of those are good for mileage or performance. Now we're going to speed ahead up to putting the K&N air filter in. So on this one, I went on a pretty big trip this year. I went to from Sault Ste. Marie all the way to PEI, to the Cabot Trail, to all over Nova Scotia, and then back home. So I ended up doing 7,500 kilometers in 7 days, and my best day was just over 2,000 kilometers in a day, which was pretty awesome. So that's a personal record. So I got quite a bit of mileage from this. From this point all of this page all the way to these last two fuel stops there. So there's 39 data points that I used. My average mileage was 15.76 kilometers per liter, which works out to 37.03 miles per gallon US and 44.43 miles per gallon UK. So I know you hear those numbers and you're going, oh, that's not as good as with the OEM air filter. But this is also over a lot longer distance, 39 fuel stops versus only 6 fuel stops. But my best mileage was 19.36 kilometers per liter, which works out to 45.5 miles per gallon US or 54.6 miles per gallon UK, which is better than the average on the other one, but it was a lot lower set of data numbers. But my worst mileage on this trip was 12.58 kilometers per liter, which works out to 29.56 miles per gallon US or 35.48 miles per gallon UK. So those bad numbers are really bad, but I was riding a lot of rain. That some of the places where I stopped didn't have premium, so I was putting regular in, and some of the gas stations I stopped at, there's no other options, and I never heard of them before. Those seemed to give me the worst mileage actually. So whether that had anything to do with it or not, but I would say that has a little bit of effect on it, and just driving style too. There's a lot of fun roads and that kind of stuff, and it was a good time. So between the K&N and the OEM one there's not too much of a difference. It's worse than average, but I had really bad had some really bad areas where I had bad weather and everything, which really affected the mileage. So, but overall, I would say the K&N filter is good. I'm happy I put it in. I usually change one filter a year minimum, and the OEM filters are around $36 the last time I bought one plus tax, and the K&N was around $90 plus tax. So after 3 air filters, I'm saving money, which is kind of what the goal was. A little bit to try to get a little more power, but mainly just to save money on filters, because I was buying them so often, they really started adding up after a while. So I ended up converting over. So even if I'm getting just a little bit worse mileage with it, it still works out beneficial financially in the long run versus having to buy a new OEM filter. And it's easy to clean. I'll do some videos on that at a later date and of how to clean the K&N air filters. So I got one on this, I got one on my truck, so I'll do a video where I clean both at the same time whenever I get around to it. So, in conclusion, I would say either the OEM air filter or the OEM replacement K&N air filter are good. If you're looking for even more, K&N and other manufacturers make a filter that you replace your chrome cover, and it comes with another one, and the filter is exposed. So those are good too. You get more power out of those. You get more air, so you get more power. But you gotta watch in the rain. You have a little rain hat, or whatever you want to call it, that goes on them. And I'm always afraid that I'd end up losing that. And I like the look of the OEM one, of the chrome cover. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to stick with that. And you can also get like the Ram Air style as well, which are really good too. But then it gets back into the weather side of things and looks. And I'm just always afraid of sucking water into my motor and hydrolocking it or that kind of stuff if I suck too much in. And when I hit rain, I don't like to stop. If I have somewhere I want to be, I just want to keep going. I don't want to be looking for any rain hats or anything like that. I just want to keep riding and get to where I'm getting to. So, but the biggest thing, if you want to get more power and more fuel economy out of your vehicle, get more air in. And doing that airbox mod is the best thing you can do for your motorbike or even for your vehicle, if you can get more air in, it's the way to go. But with a vehicle, you got to make sure that it's getting air forced over it from the road. That's why this works so good. It's exposed fully to the air coming past as I'm driving down the highway. So as I start gaining speed, I'm getting more air into that airbox. I hope you find this helpful when you're picking your next air filter, or when you're looking to find ways to save money on fuel or get more performance. And now you have some data between the OEM style and the K&N style OEM replacement filter, and how it actually runs, and some actual mileage numbers and that kind of stuff. So if you need to see how to take the airbox off and change the air filter, whether it's OEM or K&N, that'll be episode 4 on Clargo Garage. And if you want to see just what I had to do to get the K&N air filter in, because there was a few things I had to change, but it comes with everything you need, and it comes with instructions. It's really straightforward. That's episode 43 is the K&N replacement, and episode 4 is just how to change the air filter and take your airbox in general. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, leave a comment. Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification button, and check me out on Instagram at Clargo Garage. Have a great night.